three kinds of fitna that Allah talks about in the Quran. One kind is from Allah Himself. And to give you He talks about this in many ways, but one of the ways that fitna happens in this dunya. By the way, there's a fitna in this dunya, and there's also a fitna in the akhirah. يَوْمَ هُمْ عَلَى النَّارِ يُفْتَنُونَ. The day on which they are going to be put in fitna on the fire. That's on Judgment Day. They're going to be in fitna. What does that mean? Just like the fire burns deep inside the metal and melts the impurities, that's how Allah takes the people of Jahannam and burns them deep inside. And He uses the word fitna for that on Judgment Day. But I'm not talking about akhirah. In terms of this dunya, three kinds of fitna. And the first of them is when Allah puts somebody in fitna. The easiest example of that for you to remember is what Allah says about Musa alayhi salam. When Musa alayhi salam spoke with him on the mountain, Allah told him, وَفَتَنَّاكَ فُتُونًا. We tested you multiple times. We put you in fitna multiple times. When he was born, the order was to kill all the babies. And he was, even as a baby, he was put in fitna. He was in a fitna when he was in the basket that could have drowned. He was in a fitna when he was being raised in the house of Fir'aun. He was in a fitna when he had to hide his mother's true identity. He was in a fitna when he had to escape Egypt. He was in a fitna when he couldn't go back to Egypt and when he almost died of dehydration. He was in a, all of these were fitna that he went through, all of these difficult tests that he went through. And Allah describes how Musa alayhi salam was put through fitna. So you would think Allah does this for believers, but Allah also mentions this for Fir'aun. وَلَقَدْ فَتَنَّا آلَ فِرْعَوْنَ. We put the people of Fir'aun and the lineage, the descendants of Fir'aun also in fitna. So now we're learning when Allah executes a fitna, He doesn't just do this for believers and doesn't just do this for disbelievers, it's for everybody. Anybody can be put through fitna. And that is why we find in the Quran, فِتْنَتُكْ تُصِيبُهَا مَنْ تَشَاءُ تُصِيبُ بِهَا مَنْ تَشَاءُ إِنْ هِيَ إِلَّا فِتْنَتُكْ تُصِيبُ بِهَا مَنْ تَشَاءُ. Musa alayhi salam even told Allah at one point, this is your fitna, you can strike with your fitna whoever you want. You can strike with your fitna whoever you want. So Muslims don't have a simplistic understanding of difficulties or tests or trials in this life. So we don't say, how come good people are having difficult time and how come bad people are having a good time? I don't get it. People who say that must not have studied the Quran. People who say that would not have learned لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي كَبَدٍ. Because Allah makes this clear from the very beginning. That fitna will happen and وَاتَّقُوا فِتْنَةً لَا تُصِيبَنَّ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا مِنْكُمْ خَاصَّةً. Like you should be afraid of a fitna that will not just strike the people who do wrong, Allah says. So fitna doesn't just happen to people that are bad or people who do wrong. Fitna happens to everybody. And sometimes some people's crime, many people have to pay the price. At least in this world it looks like that. Some people commit a crime and everybody has to pay the price, right? And that is the nature of fitna. Allah Azza wa Jal tests fitna, creates fitna in many, many ways. And some of those fitnas seem very drastically unfair. Like recently here, I was telling the story of Yusuf alayhi salam, and what happened to Yusuf alayhi salam from the beginning of his life is unfair. His brothers, what they did to him is not his fault. So they put him in fitna. But now, one category was when Allah puts you in fitna. Okay, let's talk about the second category. The second category is when people put you in fitna. When people put you, like إِنَّ الَّذِينَ فَتَنُوا الْمُؤْمِنِينَ وَالْمُؤْمِنَاتِ. Like رَبَّنَا لَا تَجْعَلْنَا فِتْنَةً لِلَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا. When people put you in difficulty, when people persecute believers, when people attack believers, when people wrong, when people oppress other people, that's the second kind of fitna Allah describes in the Quran. People that commit crimes against others are putting them in fitna. People that are torturing, persecuting, murdering, killing, they're putting other people in fitna. People that are abusing others are putting people in fitna. This is another category. So now there's two different categories. There's the fitna Allah puts you in, there's the fitna people put you in. And then there's the third category. The fitna I put myself in. وَلَكِنَّكُمْ فَتَنْتُمْ أَنفُسَكُمْ. Allah says, you put yourselves in fitna. You threw yourselves into fitna. So now we've got three. And we need to understand how the three of these work. There's the fitna from Allah, there's the fitna from bad people, and by the way, it's not just bad people. It's not just, I should have qualified, it's not just bad people. Allah says, إِنَّمَا أَمْوَالُكُمْ وَأَوْلَادُكُمْ fitna. Even your children are a fitna, so your children are putting you in fitna. So it's not just kuffar that are putting you in fitna, the enemies of Allah that are putting you in fitna. The baby that you love, the children that you love, the daughter that you're excited to get married, get her married off, and her wedding's happening in a couple of weeks, and Allah is calling that a fitna too. Right? So fitna comes from Allah, fitna comes from people, and then fitna comes from within myself. Now what Allah describes in the Quran then is how people get, when they have weak faith, what happens to them? Whenever people put them in fitna, جَعَلَ فِتْنَةَ النَّاسِ كَعَذَابِ اللَّهِ. This person takes the fitna that people put him in. People are doing something wrong to you. People are doing something messed up. And then you convert that in your head. Why is Allah letting this happen? This must be Allah punishing me. Why is Allah punishing me? I didn't do anything. So you confuse the fitna of people with the adhab of Allah. And my objective in the next half of this khutbah is to try to properly understand what is it that Allah wants us to know about this term and how we should live our lives thinking about the trials and difficulties that we go through. Of course, everyone here knows nothing happens except by the will of Allah. So I'm going to give you a silly example. Like somebody picks up a rock outside when you leave Jum'ah, they throw it on your head. It hits your head really hard, you turn back, you're angry at them, they say, no, this is a fitna from Allah. Allah is testing you. It's not me. That's a fitna from Allah, because nothing happens except by the will of Allah. مَا أَصَابَ مِن مُصِيبَةٍ إِلَّا بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ. No calamity strikes, no difficulty can hit anybody except if Allah wanted it to happen. So bro, I know I picked up the rock and I hurled it at you and I'm impressed with my own aim. It was a pretty good hit. But the issue is you shouldn't be taking this up with me. You should take this up with the government. You should take this up with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Look, it's a matter of intelligence. Give another example to help you understand this problem. Insects, they have very small brains. Yeah? If you're messing around with an insect and you kind of take a straw and you kind of mess around with it a little bit, it starts fighting with the straw. It starts attacking the straw. Because to the insect, the source of the problem is the straw. So it attacks it. But if you take something with a little bit of a bigger brain, like a dog or a snake, and you take a stick and you mess with the snake, it's not going to attack the stick. It sees that behind the stick is somebody else. It's going to bite you. The dog is not going to bite the stick. The dog is going to bite you because it has a bigger brain. It can see, okay, the fitna is the stick, but the real fatin, the real one putting me in that situation is the one holding the stick. And we have bigger brains than dogs and snakes. So the guy's arguing, I threw a rock at you, you see me, but I'm just the stick. Behind me is the power of Allah. Allah did this, not me, so blame Allah. That's His. So this idea, and therefore, because everything happens by the will of Allah, we should blame Allah for everything bad that happens. Now to understand this problem, and first I wanted to make sure you understand the problem. Now, how do we understand the solution? What Allah has done is separated those two things. Allah allowing something to happen is not the same as Allah desiring something to happen. Allah allows many things to happen in this world that make Allah angry. Allah in fact gets angry in the Quran. If everything happened the way Allah wants it to happen, or the way Allah desires, by the pleasure of Allah, everything happened by the rida of Allah, then Allah should never be upset about anything, because He's the one who did all of it. But when Allah says, غَضِبَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِمْ, Allah got angry at them. What did the Mufassirun describe here? There's a difference between the rida of Allah, the pleasure of Allah, Allah doing something willingly, or rather not willingly, out of His desire to do something, out of His will, but rather more, He allowed it to happen. He in His wisdom decided, I will allow certain things to happen, even though He Himself is not pleased with those things. He gave human beings that freedom to do things that are displeasing to Him. He gave them that freedom. And the first time Allah did this, when He created the human beings, even the angels were confused. Why are you giving the human beings this power to do things that you don't like? Ya Allah, you don't like these things, but you're letting them do these things. How come you're letting them do them? أَتَجْعَلُ فِيهَا مَنْ يُفْسِدُ فِيهَا وَيَسْفِكُ الدِّمَاء? They couldn't understand it. And Allah Azza wa Jalla said these human beings are created for a much more complex and powerful purpose that even the angels were not yet ready to understand. إِنِّي أَعْلَمُ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. I know something you don't know. That's what He told the angels. Now, Allah has given me the freedom to displease Him. Forget talking about anybody else. I'm not here to talk about Fir'aun or Shaitan, I'm here to talk about myself. And every one of us should be thinking about themselves. Allah has given me the ability to disobey Him. Allah has given me the freedom to upset Him, the freedom to make Him angry, the freedom to backbite, the freedom to slander, the freedom to eat haram, the freedom to attack someone else, to hurt someone else, to steal. He's given me that freedom. He's given me the reign to do it. So before I complain about how come this one got away with it and that one got away with it, how come the zalim gets away with it, before we say that, I have to ask myself, what do I get away with? What do I get away with? Somebody came to me not too long ago because of what's happening in the world, and we all know what's happening in Gaza. May Allah Azza wa Jal help the believers in Gaza and grant the shuhada Jannah and grant their families sabr and give us an ounce of that kind of tawakkul and iman that those people have demonstrated and give them nusra. But somebody came and asked, how come Allah is letting that happen? How come Allah doesn't just stop it? Because it's a fitna from Allah. It's a fitna from Allah. How come Allah doesn't just stop it? So the question then becomes, let's think about this reasonably. If you want Allah to stop it, if you want Allah to intervene, should Allah not intervene every time you and I disobey Allah? Where do you draw the line? No, if they're killing people, then Allah should stop. But if they're stealing, that's not so bad. It's okay, Allah doesn't have to intervene yet. Or if you're lying about something, then no, don't make your tongue, force your tongue to say the true thing. No, not that much control, but after some limits, Allah should just stop things. Allah put human beings on this earth, and He allowed them to be a fitna for each other. Allah allowed them to be a fitna for each other. And when we take the fitna that we put each other in, human beings put each other in fitna, and then we say, no, this is Allah's fault. Allah's the one who did this, not the people. That is what's called when you put yourself in fitna. The third one. It is from Allah only in that Allah allowed you to be tested. Allah created a situation and allowed you to be tested to see how I'm going to do, how you're going to do. That's it.